Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be taking a look at one from Vox. Now, I love how Vox tries to explain DACA and they leave out several key factors while going through it. It's actually kind of funny. So here they are, DACA explained. Now this they put up on September 6th. And let's look at the description. Protection from deportation and the chance to work have been life-changing for DACA recipients. But if Congress and White House can't agree on a bill to protect them within a 6-month time frame, those protections will disappear. Well, technically they have 2 years, but it looks like he's going to cut them off at 6 months. And the thing is I honestly say good. Okay, this was never supposed to be a permanent solution. All right, Obama even stated this. He said it was a temporary reprieve. Now, he goes and kept saying that to sell it because he knew what he was doing was circumventing law. Okay, that's why the court, which we get into here, said that DACA was probably unconstitutional. But you see, people on the left, they don't care about constitutionality unless it's something they want and it's ruled constitutional. If it's ruled unconstitutional, these same people will go, no, that's not right. Well, guess what? Life sucks. So let's get into this video now. Oh, before we do though, watch. They instantly pull this whole pull on your heartstrings type thing, and they omit so many facts to this because if you knew them, you'd be kind of upset going, wait one fucking minute. So this is shit that I should be getting and these fuckers are getting it? Whoa, 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 whoa. And you'll be doing stuff like that because those of you out here who say watch Vox videos, not for the fact of looking at them to call them on their shit, but the ones who actually watch them. If you're not upper middle class and you're for the shit that they're pushing, you need some serious help because the stuff with like this, they're pushing that you get screwed. And that's not right.
I remember the day that I found out I was undocumented. I got a call from an admissions office from a university that I had applied to.
Okay, now, an admissions office, depending on what university we're talking here, they're not going to care because California, they just flat out take you. In sanctuary cities, most of the colleges just flat out take you. They don't care about green cards. So what I'm thinking is it was financial aid. I would put money, it was financial aid, and they said, say it was admissions. Say it was admissions. Because admissions is not going to give two shits about your green card. Okay? They only care about you filling out the paperwork, having an ID, things like that. It's financial aid that's going to give a shit about whether or not you have a green card. Because you kind of sort of need one if you're not an American citizen to qualify and to apply for it.
They wanted to see a green card. I, was extremely embarrassed. My mother just started crying. In between her tears, she just started apologizing and told me that it was her fault and that she wanted a better future for us. And
okay, end of story. Because now this whole video is moot. Because you're trying to lay it on being a guilt situation, make us feel guilty, and, oh, well, it's our fault for not just taking them in. Well, no. She just accepted the blame for her son being here. Okay, we can end this video now, right? No, now we got to go on for another 5 minutes and 7 seconds.
Look at what happened.
That's Juan Escalante. When he was 11 years old, Juan and his family came to the United States from Venezuela.
Okay. Now, watch. They're not going to explain why his family fled from Venezuela. Anyone who's keeping up on current events knows why his family fled from Venezuela. It's because the socialist slash communists, because they claim to be socialists, but these guys are communists that are running the show. Okay, they're communist dictators. But yeah, so because of socialism, because of Marxism, we'll just say Marxism, because they try to say Venezuela is socialist, but if you look, it's way more USSR style communism than it is, socialism like you think of with, say, UK and the National Health Service, or Sweden, or Germany, or anywhere else in Europe. So we'll just say Marxist. Okay, because of Marxism, his family fled Venezuela. Okay, because of what it leads to. Which, we're going to see what happens when you live in a country where you have Marxists running it. Okay, it becomes a crime-ridden shithole. Like Venezuela has become to this point, where it's so bad that I wouldn't go there even if my life depended on going there.
Where life had become dangerous.
So, yeah, it became dangerous. Why? Because a Marxist dictator took over and fucked the economy up. Venezuela was the richest country in that region. People were doing way better than they were after the Marxism came into play. It leads to what his family encountered, which they're going to use right now to play at your heart and make you feel really bad and want to cry.
We were driving, and we stopped at a red light, and a man approaches the car, and he tells my mother if she doesn't surrender the car to him, he is going to pull out a gun and kill one of her kids in the car right there.
Now, he was a little kid when this happened. So, that being the case, eyewitness testimony is complete shit. I got a feeling that, yeah, this might have happened, but knowing it's Vox, knowing it's like Vice, knowing how these things on the left are, I wouldn't be surprised if they coached him a little bit and have him make it sound even more upsetting than it really is. I mean, Jesus. I mean, yeah, I feel bad for him. This is not my fucking problem, okay? Americans are the problem of this country. We have Americans going without. We have Americans in need. But yet, we're supposed to worry about these people? Yes, it's sad that they got a temporary reprieve and it's being taken away. But it was temporary. Obama even said this.
We picked up everything. We sold all our toys. And
I love this. We picked up everything and sold all our toys. Well, number one, you were fleeing, the way you put it, violence brought on by Marxism. Something that Vox is going to leave out. And you sold your toys. Well, I don't think you sold all your toys, because you probably had some with you. And two, you were basically going with suitcases. You couldn't bring all your toys. Yeah. So, I don't feel bad for you. I'm not going to feel guilt for you.
And, just embarked on this journey.
Juan made it to college and graduated. But because he was undocumented, he couldn't work, and he worried about being deported.
Okay, so, see, they asked for a green card. This is before DACA. I love this. Oh, Vox. How stupid do you think the people are? Because you're pretty fucking stupid yourself. So they bring up this fact about his green card and they make it sound like it was an issue. So obviously it wasn't, because before DACA, he was able to graduate. Let's listen to this again.
But because
just embarked on this journey.
Juan made it to college and graduated. But because he was undocumented, he couldn't work, and he worried.
Well, no, he could work. Because there are plenty of people out there that are unscrupulous on the note of owning businesses and individuals that are looking for day laborers, whatever. He could have worked. It just wouldn't have been in anything related to his degree. But you see, he could have went back to Venezuela. I mean, before all this shit happened, with the fact of what the Marxists have done on turning that place into a shithole where people have eaten all the animals in the zoo, all the cats in Caracas, the Caracas Zoo, all the animals eaten, all the cats and dogs eaten. That's Marxism for you. Now, before the shit hit the fan, he could have taken his degree and gone back to his home country, and with that degree that American taxpayers paid for, I'm gonna say with almost 100% certainty, he could have made a life for himself in Venezuela. And then he would have been interrupted with the shit going on, and it would have sucked to have been him. But that's, again, not our problem.
Worried about being deported.
Even like a trip to the grocery store, and you get pulled over, and that's it. It's game over.
Well, here's the thing. Now, this is what I love. He's driving a car, and he's an illegal. Now, we're talking before DACA. That means if it's registered in his name or his mother's name, and he'd be an accessory if it was his mother's name, use of the car, everything else. Criminally, he would be considered an accessory. That means we're talking about identity fraud. Now, in order to get an identity, you need a social security number. So we're talking about social security fraud. Then we're talking about the fact of driving without a license. That's another crime. Then we're talking about the fact of being here illegally. Another crime. So these DACA people, just in this one example, him driving, I just pointed out a lot of crimes that just exempted him from DACA. But we're supposed to just go, oh no, nothing to see here. They didn't commit any crimes. But a lot of these people that got DACA did stuff like social security fraud, identity fraud, things like that. I mean, when that's happening, you can't go, oh, well, they're getting a reprieve, temporary reprieve, because they're not criminals. No, they are fucking criminals. Just being here, they're criminals. I feel bad for them. But you know what? I feel worse looking at my fellow Americans going through the shit that they are. And they should come first.
But that changed in June of 2012.
Effective immediately, the Department of Homeland Security is taking steps to lift the shadow of deportation from these young people.
Okay, now here's the thing. Obama enacted this through executive order and did so, which they talk about, in a way that was unconstitutional, especially considering that this legislation types of this legislation had been going through Congress for years. And even when Obama was in office and the Democrats controlled both houses, he couldn't get the Dreamer Act passed. So he went out, well, fuck you all, and signed an executive order, circumventing the will of Congress and the will of people. And I love how they try to say, oh, well, the people wanted this. Actually, no. Most Americans did not want this. So they're using slanted statistics, because you can take anything statistics-wise. Okay? You can take numbers and get them to mean anything you want. So that's what they're going to do here.
If you come to the U.S. when you were under 16, if you were either in high school or had a high school diploma, and if you had either no criminal record or like a teeny tiny misdemeanor,
then you could apply for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals.
I love how she slipped that in, that at the end there, that if a little eensy teensy weensy, because to them, selling crack is a little eensy teensy weensy crime. Now, a citizen sells crack, and they're going to jail for a long time. But if you're a drug dealer and you're an illegal, oh no, well, you can apply for DACA. That's some fucked up shit.
Or DACA program. Basically, a permit that protects you from getting deported and allows you to work legally in the US. Juan got this protection, and so did nearly 800,000 others who applied.
Okay, so nearly 800,000 people got it who applied. Now, the thing is Zuckerberg's group, like a think tank of his, right in the beginning of their impact study on this, and they tried to slant it, they had to admit that they take up 700,000 jobs. And there are millions of Americans unemployed. Millions of Americans that would love to get one of those 700,000 jobs that these people are taking up. Again, I feel bad for them, but I feel worse for my fellow Americans. And you know what? If you're a citizen, you should have fucking priority in this country over someone, okay, regardless of the fact of whether your parents brought you in or not. You came in on your own steam. Okay, regardless of that fact of parents bringing you in or your own steam, you shouldn't get fucking any preferential or special fucking treatment. You should get the boot in the ass. No offense, but you should get the boot in the fucking ass. You know, there's the door. Don't let the, there's the door. Don't let it hit you with a good Lord split you type crap. I don't care. Call me cruel. Call me uncaring. Okay? Because I don't care. It's not that I don't care, because I do feel for them. But I don't care, okay, about their sob story. I care about my fellow Americans. So, call me an asshole. Don't give a shit.
But now, that protection is gone.
I'm here today to announce that the program known as DACA that was effectuated under the Obama administration is being rescinded.
Because it was an executive order that was unconstitutional, which I love how they go, oh, it was probably no. They basically said it was. But that the Supreme Court would ultimately be the ones to have to decide that.
DACA was designed to protect a generation of young, undocumented immigrants known as...
Young, undocumented immigrants. It was enacted in 2012, and pretty much everyone who's protected under DACA is a fucking adult today. Okay? And people that were in their, 30s or some shit were allowed to apply for it. So now we're talking 5 years later. So some of them are pushing 40, if not in their 40s. They're not fucking kids. Like I said, pretty much all of them are adults now. So it's not to protect kids. Great attempt at fucking, lying, Vox, but you failed.
As Dreamers, named after a bill called the DREAM Act, which had been floating around Congress for more than a decade, and with bipartisan support. The bill would have given...
No, not bipartisan support. With basically support from people who have been proven to have taken campaign money and, that type of stuff from George Soros. And I believe you bring up 2 Republicans. Yeah, that's right, you do. That have been proven to have taken money from George Soros. Interesting. It's kind of like there's a narrative going on here that someone's feeding you. Because this is kind of the same shit that others have said.
Given unauthorized immigrants who grew up in the U.S. a way to gain legal status and eventually apply for citizenship. And
now I love how they're showing all these young teenagers, and when I said, again, pretty much all of them are adults now.
Even though it fell short of 60 Senate votes in 2010, the idea...
Okay, yeah, it fell short. 60 votes. And Congress was controlled by the fucking Democrats, meaning they had more than a majority. And And you leave that fucking fact out. Oh yeah. Oh, good job, Vox.
It was still popular with the American public.
The Public Religion Research Institute. Yeah, I'm not buying that 66% because if it was 66%, most of the people who voted for Trump voted for him for the fact of illegal immigration. A lot of them did. So I'm going to call bullshit on this one because that would mean that the people who voted for, one of the key campaign promises of Trump wasn't, a factor for people voting when it actually was. Nice try, Vox.
When President Obama announced DACA, it was in the middle of the 2012 presidential campaign, but it didn't turn into a huge campaign issue because Republicans were really ambivalent about turning immigration into a wedge issue.
We need to help.
Now, what's funny is she talks about Obama mentioning DACA. He didn't exactly mention DACA because he didn't want to tip his hand that he was basically going to violate the Constitution and just grant them all amnesty through an executive order. And like what I said about the whole deep state thing, okay, the Soros deep state fucking Republican shills. We got Foam Party Rubio here as one of them. And my favorite one next is the left's new golden boy, McCain. So let's see what they have to say.
Accommodate these kids who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in this legal limbo.
We cannot forever have children who were brought here by their parents when they were small children to live in the shadows.
But in 2014, Obama proposed...
Now, you see, it's funny how the only Republicans pushing this, at least now, okay, are ones that have clear ties to globalists like Soros, deep state, the deep state, and so forth. And that should give people a fucking clue to what's really going on and to raise a big red flag that these are people that should not be trusted. I mean, McCain is a murderer 130 times over for all the deaths that he caused on the USS Forrestal. He should have been sent to military prison for what he did because of being an idiot fucking around trying to screw with the pilot behind him. He pop-started the engine on his jet, cooked off a rocket, which then dropped a 1,000-pound bomb that, because his daddy was an admiral, he was allowed to break the rules and load on his plane. And boom. So you've got this guy here, who's now the poster child for the left, for some reason, who shouldn't even be a senator because of that type of stuff. Oh, it was an electrical glitch. That's what friggin' Wikipedia says now. But that's a complete crock of shit. He caused it. Shouldn't even be there, but now he's a poster child, and they're using him to push this DACA crap. It's fucked up.
Making older immigrants eligible for DACA and creating similar protections against deportation for undocumented parents with children who were U.S. citizens.
Okay. Kind of like how the left has been going after this whole extended family bullshit thing with Trump's whole vetting process ban. God, I think of Jim Brewer's comic routine from he's done it a couple ones, but there's one where he actually has like it do cutaways, and he's talking about drinking, and he starts talking about how, you're like, beer shows up, you're like, oh yeah, you have one, and you see all these beers hanging out and they're all getting along. Then scotch, other one, all different drinks, and they're all working together well. And then all of a sudden tequila shows up and he sneaks in 10 of his friends. That's what this is. I mean, it's literally the personification of a Jim Brewer fucking comedy routine. I mean, that's fucked up. Yeah, let's sneak in 15 of them in while we're at it. Yeah, we'll let these people through, but then we're going to sneak 15 more onto them. You know, latched onto them.
A lot of Republicans said, whoa, that's too far.
These new actions would have protected about 4.5 million people, nearly half the estimated undocumented population.
Right. It would have also made it so that that 4.5 million would have been now able, instead of using things like Social Security fraud, identity fraud, instead of using those things, they would have been able to go directly and go for jobs that Americans want. They would have, all right, it's bad enough that illegals drive wages down, okay, to the extent that they do. Because the fact is there are not going to be all these employers that are going to employ illegals, because it's kind of hard to fuck with your taxes to cover it up and shit like that. And sometimes it's just not worth the trouble to try to do that. But now you're just going to hand all of them, you know, a free pass to go out and get legitimate jobs, and they're going to drive the wages down even more, because now, okay, they're going to end up, you know, being able to do that, you know, create an environment where they're looking for the same exact jobs that Americans are, because they now have that ability, and employers are going to exploit that, and they're going to use that to drop wages even more. But you don't want to talk about this type of stuff, because why? You only give a shit about people who weren't born here. You only give a shit about globalist, no border fucking agendas.
A group of 26 states sued the Obama administration over the expansion.
Yeah, because why? And you're going to say this, because it was fucking unconstitutional.
And they won. A federal judge stopped the DACA expansions from going into effect, hinting that they were probably unconstitutional.
No, he's pretty much said they were unconstitutional, but the thing is it would have to go to the Supreme Court in order for it to ultimately be decided whether or not it is unconstitutional, because of the fact that that's the only place where that can be done on the note of court, is the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. So Obama didn't push the issue, because he knew if he did, it would have went to the Supreme Court and this whole thing would have been proven unconstitutional.
People had started thinking back to, well, if those bigger programs were unconstitutional, what does that say about this DACA program that's already in place?
Ooh! You see, I love how she brings this up. That it's unconstitutional? Which President Trump is giving Congress the chance, and I love how you're trying to pin this on Trump, because when Congress does not pass this shit, which they better not, you're going to need someone to blame, and instead of blaming them, you're going to go right after that man right there. Right after that man.
Then came Donald Trump.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best.
They're not. I mean, and I love how the left tries to go, oh, nothing to see here. When Mexico literally has this policy, and they've done this multiple times at this point over the years, where they literally take the worst of the worst, the absolute dregs of society, the shit stains of shit stains. We're talking they're murderers, they're rapists, they're child molesters. Okay? They load them up on buses. They throw a few pesos in their hand, or in most likelihood it's probably dollars, but we'll just say pesos because they're in Mexico. They literally bring them to the border and set them forth on the American public. This has been proven to have happened more than once. So they're not sending the best. Then you got the gangbangers, the cartel members, the people that are coming here and stealing identities, that are drunk driving and killing people and getting to revolving door fucking bullshit their way through life when they should be in prison and then deported for what they did.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
Once Donald Trump became the leading Republican presidential candidate running on an immigration hardline platform, Republicans started to look at things in a new light.
If it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be talking about illegal immigration.
When Trump...
Okay, yeah, we wouldn't have been. Because no one besides him on the right, because they were all pretty much hand-picked globalist fucking shills. I mean, because pretty much all of them, except for him, were that way, and you had globalist all on the left, globalist all on the right, except for Trump, that is. When you have that, yeah, they don't want to talk about it, because you know why? Illegals are beneficial for their plans of open borders and common markets and quote-unquote free trade that really isn't free. Because it helps the corporations who are part of this globalism, the people who are running these corporations. It allows for them to exploit people and pay them shit wages.
DACA's fate seemed sealed. But even though he revoked lots of Obama's other executive orders on immigration, nearly 8 months into his term, he still hadn't ended DACA.
A lot of the immigration hawks began to go, wait, we were promised that...
Yeah, we were promised. And I love how they call them immigration hawks. No. The majority of his supporters, okay, wanted this. We're not hawks. We want America for Americans. Not for every Tom, Dick, and fucking Juan. Or Habib, or fucking Chang, or whatever. Okay, coming in and taking advantage of us and our kindness and our country. Because we've been walked all over. And we're sick and fucking tired of it. We've been exploited by people from these countries. We're sick and tired of it. We've been exploited by the globalists. We're sick and tired of it. That's why we elected Trump. To take care of stuff like this.
You were going to get rid of this amnesty that exists right now. What the heck happened?
So a bunch of states threatened to sue the government over DACA again if...
Well, because it's unconstitutional, and he was dealing with the economy and everything else, so let a fire under his ass. I got no problems with that.
Trump didn't get rid of it, which brings us to early September 2017.
It is my duty to ensure that the laws of the United States are enforced and that the constitutional order is upheld.
It's a very stark message that leaves a whole lot of people who only consider themselves to be Americans in limbo for the next several.
I love how you throw that in. Oh, they only consider themselves to be Americans. Well, kind of not true, because a lot of these people came in at an older age. So it wasn't like they came in at a year old, because where pretty much all of them at this point are adults. Yeah, they know the country they came from. There may be a few that didn't, but they're a minority. Because otherwise they would have been born here, and they would be Americans.
Several months.
In the 5 years it's been around, DACA has had a big impact on young undocumented immigrants. A survey of DACA recipients found nearly 70% got a job with better pay.
Well, yeah, because they're going after the jobs that Americans should have access to. See, because they're not going to unscrupulous employers who are paying them under the table. Which, on that note, there are a lot of employers paying people under the table, and they're paying them good money. Money that an American would take and be willing to have taxes taken out of it. So regardless of, so now instead of just taking jobs that someone who, from someone who would be unscrupulous, we'll say, and not pay taxes, or not, hire someone who's not going to pay taxes. All right. Not only are they taking those jobs, they're going to take the jobs where the whole tax thing happens. That's fucked up.
More than 60% open their first bank account.
Well, yeah, because now they could actually open up a bank account, which means that they can actually, instead of sitting there having to deal with cash and going and wire transferring money at, say, Walmart for the family to send back to, say, Mexico, all right, they can actually now do it directly from a fucking bank for their family. So now what you're doing is you're saying, okay, look, because I'm sure more than a few do it, is now they've opened up a bank account to launder money because it's their parents' money, I'm sure. They've worked illegally. They're shipping it out of the country, okay? That's illegal. It's illegal to do that. To take money from a criminal act and move it out of the country like that. That's against the law. So, okay, yeah, they got bank accounts, and more than a few, I'm sure, are using them for illegal activities. Good job, Vox.
Nearly 65% bought their first car, and a similar share say that they've pursued educational opportunities they previously couldn't.
Okay, so, okay, yeah, nice. They were able to buy a car. Good for them. A lot of Americans would like to be able to do that, but oh wait, they haven't been able. The jobs that are out there are being taken by the jobs that could be out there, I should say, are being taken by at least 700,000 of these DACA people. So it's okay for them to buy a car. Fuck the American. Oh well, you can go find a job. Well, they'd be able to have a job, or at least 700,000 of them would, if these illegals weren't here. Now, I feel bad for them. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to reiterate that in the videos when I talk about stuff like this, but I do feel bad for them. The thing is, I feel, as I said, worse for Americans. Now, there's more education opportunities. Do you want to know why they were able to pursue these education opportunities? It wasn't because they needed status, legal status or temporary legal status, or however you want to look at it, to get these educations. Because, like I said, sanctuary cities, a lot of the colleges, sanctuary states, same thing. They don't care about green cards. The only time they care about it is when you're applying for financial aid. So we get back to that. These 65% of people that were able to pursue these education opportunities, odds are it was because they took fucking financial aid away from Americans who deserved to get it, who had to go without either a college education or, on the note of going without in order to pay for that education, working 3 jobs, shit like that. And that ain't fucking right. But yet, Fox is trying to make it sound, oh, well, they were able to pursue education opportunities. Yeah. Off of my fucking hard-earned money that I paid in on taxes that should be going to Americans. That's what I got a fucking problem with. Why should I be paying my taxes so that this 65% can get a free fucking education? And I'm sure almost all of that 65% didn't pay for their shit. Because that's a fucking trend with the whole, quote-unquote illegal immigrants. Immigrants, you got to come here legally to be one. Otherwise, you're an alien.
But when these protections expire over the coming weeks, months, or years, they'll be back where they started before 2012, unable to work legally and constantly at risk for deportation.
Good! Because they're not supposed to be here! I don't care if their fucking parents brought them in, that's their parents' fault. Complain to their fucking parents. Say how shitty their parents were for putting them in this situation to quote-unquote make their lives better. Yeah, on my fucking dime, on your fucking dime, and everyone else's fucking dime that's an American or a legal resident alien who went through the fucking hoops, you know, or a naturalized citizen who went through the fucking hoops, okay, and busted their asses to come here, okay, who in going through the hoops with those people that are legal resident aliens and, you know, naturalized citizens, okay, and going through those hoops, it cost them a lot of money and a lot of time on the note of how many years it took for them to get here. So you're basically snubbing them and rubbing their noses in the fact that these assholes got fucking special treatment. Good job, Vox. But now we get into the credits. Anyways, this is the type of shit that Vox and others on the left are trying to use to play at the heartstrings of people, you know, to play at the hearts, you know, the strings of people's hearts, to, you know, guilt them. And I'm at a point where I don't feel it anymore. I don't give a shit, because I have priorities on what I care about and priorities in life. And they are not part of my priorities. America and Americans are. Anyways, if you like the video, upvote or give me a thumbs up depending on where you're watching it. If you want to be alerted to more of my content coming out, definitely subscribe. If you want to get alerts to it, definitely ring that bell on YouTube. But thank you all for watching. Have a good one.